Okay, so we started with a bit of code, and I haven't commented it, and you probably don't know what a lot of it means. So I'm going to cover what it means. And I said the word comment. A comment is, in Java, it starts with // and what that means is human language. So human language would be like, well, what does this line mean? Well, import java.awt is an import. We import libraries. AWT is a graphics library. So what I'm doing here is importing a graphics library. And actually, that's what the next line does too. Swing is a more modern library. It looks a little bit more like Windows, so importing another graphics library. So by commenting, I'm explaining things. Now, you wouldn't normally comment all this stuff because it's pretty simple stuff, but I think I'm going to ask you to comment some of it so you can remember what it means. In Eclipse, I can actually see here, I'm importing java.awt.star. Star means everything usually in computers, so the .star means what graphics library do I want to do. There's a whole bunch of graphics libraries here. You see we have a canvas, we have a checkbox. I think there's a button in here. Sometimes you'll see people import each one of these things individually, and so there's more import lines. I'm just doing a star and I say import it all. So all of the standard graphics library, which is AWT, and all of the modern graphics library, which is Swing. Well, that's what those lines are doing. So everything in this program is in a class. That class is called first program here. Notice that the class name has to be the same as the file name. Okay, so our class is called first program. The bracket here ends here. Does it actually highlight it? Ooh, I like that. So you see how when I highlight here, it highlights the end bracket. So everything other than the imports is from here to here. And you notice I've tabbed everything in. So everything inside this class is either tabbed or spaced in. So it looks nice and straight. So let's keep talking about this class. It has this here. This actually really doesn't do much. The Java wants to know which version of each program it is, a serial version. If I don't do this, I get a warning. The program will run fine. Notice I have 2 warnings now. So I put it in to get rid of that warning. There's another thing that we'll do to get rid of the second warning. So this, just something you throw in your code, stops serializable warning. And there's a few things that we'll do at the beginning just because that's what Java wants us to do. So you don't have to understand it too much. This is called a constructor. Okay, a constructor is what happens at the beginning of our program. When our class gets made, it always has the same name as the class. Really, right now, we're not doing much in our constructor, but we will in the future. And lastly, inside the class, we have a paint component. So our program is a panel on the screen, like a gray panel. And that's what you see when you run it, right? So this gray panel, that's a J panel. So first program extends or is a J panel. And J panels can paint themselves, right? They paint what they look like. Usually they're just gray and they have stuff on them. Well, I'm saying when you paint the component, paint it like you normally would. So paint the panel. That's what that line does. This paints the panel, paints the normal panel. But I have my panel special, and there's a couple things I want to do with it. And the G, this graphics G, is a link to the graphics library. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to set the color to blue. I could change that to red. This is a special variable. Color.red is a variable. We can actually make our own colors, and we'll cover that future. So that sets the color to blue. That draws a string. A string is a sentence. So the string that I'm painting is hello world. And I'm painting it at location X 10, location Y 10. And I think if I go comma, if I go here, G dot draw string, it's pretty neat. So you see how it says string int x, int y? It actually tells me what it does, which is a great thing about Eclipse. It tells me what the function does and what I need to do, the x and y coordinates. So if I wanted to move it, I could do that. So maybe I want the string to be in a different spot. So I can do that just by changing these numbers, and I can change the text here. The next two commands, one fills a rectangle. Fill fills in a rectangle. The rectangle is 20 wide, 20 high, and at 20x, and at 20y. So I can change these numbers if I want to change the locations and change the width and the height. And to verify that I was right, because I might have made a mistake, I can go g.fillRect and see, okay, it's first parameter is x, second parameter is y. So I did get it wrong, actually. I think I went width, height, x, y. It's actually x, y, width, height. So that's to verify it. And so it might be actually useful, you know, when we're starting out to say width, x, y, width, height, because you wouldn't want to get them mixed up, right? Draw oval works the same parameters, only it draws a circle or an oval. And notice draw means it draws the outline. Fill means it draws the entire oval. So if I go fill, I think the oval's right here. That's the oval. Okay, so if on the other hand I say draw, it will be an empty oval. Run. So, and it is empty because it's drawn, not filled. I can also change the color in between. So maybe I want to draw the rectangle and then set the color to blue. Right? I can do that. Capitalization matters. We'll talk more about why these are all capitals as we learn through Java. So now you'll see that the oval is blue, not red. So those are the drawings. Next up, what does this line do? Really, what I want to do is just sleep. That's just a pause, okay? And I would like to just say pause for 50 seconds, because if you got to paint again, you don't want to paint so much that you're taxing the CPU. 50 milliseconds is more than enough. The problem is that it won't let me do that. It actually forces me to do it like this. So what is this? Well, thread.sleep is the pause. That's what I'm trying to do. Right? I'm trying to sleep for 50 microseconds. But the computer can't guarantee that it's going to be 50 microseconds. It might be 48. It might be 54. It might go do something. So it's saying Java forces us to try to do it. And then if it doesn't work, what happens in here? So if it happens to be 54 microseconds, well, what do you want me to do? And that's the try-catch statement. Anytime something is risky, anytime something can't happen exact, I have to try it. And so here in my comment, I would say catch if it's not quite 50 seconds. And what am I doing? Well, I'm actually doing nothing. I'm not doing anything because it's not a big deal if it's going to be quicker. So usually what I would force people to do is comment like this. I like commenting like this. Bracket ends, bracket starts. And then we do it again. Bracket starts, bracket ends. But that takes out a lot of space for what is essentially one command. So I can actually, I'm compacting it a little bit like that. I like the look of that better. When you code, you should follow general rules, but you know, your code also has to look nice. So in that instance, I said that's way too much. Actually, what I could do is do this, and that's just one line, right? Incidentally, I don't have to do a try and a catch. I think I could go up here and go throws interrupted, and that means it throws it away. I might be able to do that. Let's see if it works. So let's say I didn't want this try and catch. I should be able to do that, but it might not let me. Run. No, see it, an error. Project. exception is not compatible. See, it doesn't like me doing paint with the throws and exceptions. Sometimes you don't have to try it, and you just say throw it away, it doesn't matter. But in this instance, I'm not allowed to do that, so I'll get rid of that. Okay, so that's a new coding block. You probably haven't seen that before. It's you know, there's if statements, there's functions. These are really common. In newer programming language, try and catch is quite common. So anything that is likely to throw an error must be tried. And then therefore you say, if there's an error, what do you want me to do? And sometimes we'll handle our errors and we'll actually say what happens. If you're interested and you want to see how often it doesn't quite go 50 microseconds, I could go system.out.println. So that just prints something, and I could say error. And it might be interesting to find out, like, how often is it not quite 50 microseconds? I would expect that quite often. It can't be exactly 50 microseconds. Or is it milliseconds? And so our output should be right here. Huh, maybe I don't think it threw an error yet. Yeah, that's weird. I would have expected an error by now. That's what the system.out.println should come to here. So if we do it, we should get it out that way. So let's close that. Let's close that. I've got 4 copies of these windows open. Okay, and we're almost done with this, explaining what this code is. I took a long time on try there. It's the real short of it is it's just something we have to do when we sleep. And so really this is the only command that matters. Thread.sleep 50 microseconds. By the way, if I was doing something, I may want to change that number depending on my timer, and we might show you that next. And then lastly, this is the main argument. This is actually the first function that gets called. And so any program that's able to run has to have a main, public static void main, exactly like that. And what do we do? Well, I make a JFrame, which is a window. I say equals new JFrame, and this is the title. Bouncy ball is not quite right. I should call it my first program. My first program. And I say, so the JFrame is called frame. I can call it something else if I want. I could say frame 1, but then I have to change it. So I've called it frame. JFrame, frame 1, right? And it's called my first program. By default, when it closes, the program's over, I set frames size to 300 by 200, 300 wide, 200 tall. And then I say, add to it, like what's the frame have? What's in its content pane? Well, put my program in there. New first program, okay? And set my frame to visible. So that's explaining the first program. There's a lot that you don't have to deeply understand. You don't have to really understand this yet. The real work we're gonna be doing at first is this. We're gonna play with the paint. So can we draw different things? And that'll be our challenge. So the shell around it is just the way we do the thing in Java, and we'll learn more about it as we go through.